The drought is over, and here we are back on the precipice of gaming. Or maybe we never left, maybe it's just a figment of our imagination. Perhaps the pandemic provided respite from a harsher reality of the everyday grind. Or perhaps it provided a warm and comforting embrace in the form of video games at home. Either way, it's good to be back to business, and on that note, I've been streaming on Twitch, so come and join us for reviews on the go at twitch.tv/beardedbreakdown. Link in the description. Anyways, we have a busy few months, so let's get started. Loopmancer is a game you've probably never heard of. Well, let me tell you something, this little 3D action platformer may have a small bark, but it has a big bite. Cyberpunk in all kinds of ways, levels, characters, and even the music are oozing the cyberpunk feel. A cyberpunk roguelite sounds good to me. Let's get into it. The setting of the game has you visiting different levels within a cyberpunk setting. Each of these levels look phenomenal, they mesh so well with the core components of the game. High-octane city streets laid in grime to luxurious high-end super hotels, desolate villages with an air of mystery and desperation, and large industrial complexes reaching into the furthest reaches of the sky. The strongest part of this game has to be the level design. The variety is astounding and these levels are quite large. You'll go from one area to the next, each looking completely different to the previous area on that level. It's like 5 or 6 mini levels have been squeezed into one for great effect. My personal favourite was the Tang Dynasty Hotel, the slick wooden floors that slowly transitioned to marble floors. High ceilings and modern architecture illuminated by wooden lanterns that are scattered throughout the levels. Hats off to the art team behind Loopmancer because you guys definitely deserve a raise for this work. The absolutely stunning levels and weapon designs as well as the weapon effects had me pretty much blown away. But the characters really let me down, and that's where I think there's a slight stain in the graphics department. Character models looked out of place and janky, hair often just hovering over the character models, making them look like they had gone to a party shop, purchased a wig, and the wig was XXL or super small in size. This persisted throughout the game, and in total there are probably about 3 characters that have passable models. Luckily there aren't that many long cutscene sequences and you can spare yourself the despair and hilarity. The core gameplay consists of roguelite leveling, delving into the standard suite of roguelite tools, weapons that you can upgrade at base or upgrade stations, special abilities and new tools, all of which you can lose upon death. When you inevitably do die, you return to your home base, and you hope to piece more parts of the story together, and that I'll explain a little later. The combat is frantic and fast-paced. Each weapon for the most part feels responsive and impactful, as do the abilities and tools that you collect throughout your runs. Enemy designs are numerous, and each of them having their own attack patterns. Some have modifiers like super armor, or they just outright turn invisible and attempt to assassinate you. There are tons of weapons akin to Dead Rising. Some are hilarious and they feel like they should belong in Saints Row. Speaking of that, I'll be covering the remake of Saints Row here on the channel, so stay tuned. You get claws, pans, clubs, katanas, glaives, dual daggers, and even your fists are lethal weapons, all while having their own rarity and power. The enemies provide a great challenge and make sure that you're always on your toes. Admittedly, the learning curve was a little steep and it was punishing, but since the release date, the game has been balanced and the annoying, oppressive enemy behaviors and types have been tweaked. There would be times that you feel completely overwhelmed and the game would feel very unfair, so I'm glad they sorted that out. Alongside the slew of weapons at your disposal, you'll have a skill tree and perk system, which are acquired from the currency that is carried over from your runs. Admittedly, during my time with the game, that currency felt scarce, but since then, again, there have been tweaks to the amounts you get from missions, and fulfilling certain side quests will reward you with more. In tandem, these two elements really blend in well to give you quite the complete package when it comes to gameplay. So let's summarize what we've discussed. Levels are beautifully designed, the characters look jank AF, and the gameplay is a refreshing take on the roguelite formula with its plethora of weapons, skills, and upgrades. But how about the writing? So we take control of a character called Jiang, and in a truly spectacular cyberpunk setting, he gets to relive the same day over and over again. Unfortunately, he has lost his memory, and when he's reliving this same day over and over again, he's encountering more parts of a story that has yet to unfold at the start of the game. What's more interesting is that his wife and kid are missing. He's on this big case, which at first seems totally unrelated, but as we progress and we fill our evidence flowchart, we start to piece things together. We get to pick the levels that we tackle, which in turn affect the story in one way or another. What's a nice touch is that there are certain objectives which have to be done in a tight time limit in order to achieve the best outcome. It's just such a shame that the complex and ultimately compelling story is let down by the writing and the voice work. You're good, I give up. 20 million what?
20 million! You'll be set for life! Like I said before,
Try to run again and I'll break your legs.
damn legs.
Damn legs,
Holy
sorry.
shit! You're the most stubborn, most arrogant dumbass I've ever seen. You shouldn't be a detective, and you shouldn't get involved in other people's business.
The voice work was absolutely horrendous at times, so cringe I actually burst out laughing. It draws this line between horrendously bad and comically bad, and unfortunately it didn't reach the comical line often enough, and we were just left with incredibly bad dialogue. So how does it run? Well, it chugs on 4K on a 3080 with max settings, which is to be expected, most games do. This ultimately led me down the path of turning down all my settings to medium and high with DLSS on balanced mode. And I tweaked the shadows to preference as I usually do, and eventually I turned my resolution to 2K to provide a better experience to my stream. Now most of the levels run very well with the exception of the Tang Dynasty Hotel, which is the best level for sure, so it's understandable. A few minor bugs existed, which have since been ironed out by a patch, and for the most part the game is smooth sailing. Now with these tremendous levels, there comes a graphical performance hit, so it's really down to you to see what you prefer if you like playing on 30 FPS, which I don't really advise because this is a very frantic and fast-paced game like I mentioned. I advise trying to hit a 60 cap. There are some really good guides online on how to optimize the settings for Loopmancer. So definitely play around with the settings to get the 60 FPS on the highest resolution that your card can run. Going down to 2K definitely provided a big chunk of my FPS back, so there's definitely quite a big load on the 4K side of things. Ad-libbing here. When it came to this game and its trailer, it seemed like it was a very action-packed and sound-filled game, but unfortunately there is little to nothing about the sound design when it comes to the background music of the game. Very little, and I was quite disappointed by this. However, there are plenty of sounds in terms of combat and horrendous dialogue. I kind of wish that they had spent more money on having some sound engineers develop an absolutely badass soundtrack instead of the voice actors. And no digs at the voice actors, you know, you can only do what you can when it comes to the script, which definitely needed some work. And unfortunately, when it comes to smaller studios, there's something about them when it comes to voice work. Obviously they can't afford like the big budgets that the AAA studios can, and so it's understandable. And I think the sound design was the victim when it came to quality. There is little to no impactful music, but when it was done well, according to the value of the game that you're purchasing. And if you're a fan of the channel, you know I love my soundtracks and I'm a bit biased when it comes to them, but oh well, you win some and you lose some. Routine is well routine, but there is little to be found here. The varied levels, the enemy design, and the vast treasury of weapons provide for a fantastic experience. It's another great addition to your roguelite library, and despite the lacking sound design, it's available for a modest price of $30, or whatever your local currency is. To be frank, it's a great buy. You get a lot for your money. It's a tad punishing, so it might not be for everyone, but so are most roguelites. So I have a feeling if you have clicked this review or have done any research on this kind of thing, it's probably up your street already. Now we have quite a few games coming up: Cult of the Lamb, which I am thoroughly enjoying, Saints Row, and Soul Hackers 2, which is going to be quite an interesting one. These are all very big titles, so I'm going to do my best to get through them and provide you some reviews. I look forward to covering them on the channel, and there you have it, the Loopmancer review. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you liked the video, leave the video a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos. Guys, again, I'm streaming on Twitch, so come and join me there. I really plan to make Twitch an integral part of this channel and its review process. It's going to be really nice to just have a chat with you guys, see what you think about the game. You can give me your impressions, and you can just have a nice conversation about video games. So I'll see you soon. Again, twitch.tv/bearded breakdown, and I look forward to the next review. See you later.